Let's see, 93b, right before the Mishnah. So we're talking about the leftover blood on your finger. You got to do a new dip. No leftovers. Yeah. So ASAB, excuse me, on this, on this idea that there's no leftovers on your finger, you got to do a new dip. ASABaye, Gamar Milahazos. So you're talking about now the purification waters of the Paraduma. Gamar Milahazos Mikanech Yado Begufo Shel Para. Interestingly enough, when you finish your sprinkling, you wipe your hand on the cow itself. The cow itself is going to be burned. So you're wiping the blood on the area that's going to be burned. Gomer in low, gomer low. It sounds like only once you finish the entire thing, you wipe your hand off. But until then, whatever remnants remain are kosher, and you can use that to sprinkle onto the person who came in contact with a corpse. That's a problem. We say that remnants cannot be used. And then here it sounds like until you finish everything, whatever remains on your fingers is fine. Amar no. Read it like this. Gamar mekanech yado begufa shel para. Once you finish everything, it's true. Wipe off your hand on the body of the cow. Lo gamar, if you didn't finish, so then mekanech etzbo. If you didn't finish the whole thing, but you have leftover on your fingers, wipe off your fingers. Now, I understand when you finish the whole thing, where do you wipe off your hand? On the body of the cow. That I understand. You're going to burn the cow in front of your eyes. So this should be with the cow that gets burned. Fine, I got it. But Ella etzbo, my finger, what should I wipe it on? I can't use the leftovers to sprinkle. And I'm not wiping on the cow because I didn't finish yet. What do I do with it? That we say, Amar Abaye Bisvat Mizrach. You're going to wipe it off on the rim, on the edge of the vessel. How do I know? I think we had this once before. It says in Ezra, it refers to these as the Kippurei Zahav. The bowls are referred to as the Kippurei Zahav. What is the word kippurei? Like Yom Kippur, it's to wipe off. These are bowls used for wiping off. You can wipe off your finger at the rim of the bowl. Just like Yom Kippur will wipe off one's sins, this is used. So you see that the Navi, Ezra, were referring to the bowls as the wiping off bowls as a hint to show us that you can wipe off your finger on the bowls. Fine. Maybe they ran out of paper. No, it wasn't Kesser. A lot of bowls. You have a lot of bowls? Yeah. Okay. Continuing laundering, I think, for a while. Yeah, continue. There's laundering materials coming up at some point. Yeah. Okay, more laundering. Nitas ala or, you got some blood on the hides. So now we're moving from blood on garments to blood on other parts. So, chatas blood. Nitas ala or, you have blood that goes on the hides of the animal. So now, until you strip the hide off the animal, the hide is not considered a vessel. If you're not a vessel, then you're not makabel tumah. You don't contaminate impurity. The rule is to contaminate impurity, you have to be a vessel. So now, as long as it's on the animal, ain't a ton kibus, because you have to be something which can contain impurity. Then when the blood gets on you, you have to be laundered. So we'll see why. The Gemara is talking about why you have to have what the source is that you have to be susceptible to impurity. However, Misha Hofshat, once the hide has been stripped, Ton Kibus, Divrei Rabbi Yehuda, and Rabbi Elazar Omer, Af Misha Hofshat, and a Ton Kibus. And Rabbi Elazar holds, he argues, and he says, even once the hide has been removed, stripped off the animal, it's still, if it gets blood, does not need to be laundered. Why? So now, there's going to be this debate, Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Elazar. Do you need something which right now is susceptible to tumah, to impurity, or something which has the potential to be susceptible to impurity? So when you skin the hide off the animal, let's say you have not decided what you want to do with it. Do you want to make it into your lawn, into your living room mat? You want to make it into your blanket? Until you've made that decision, it's not susceptible to tumah. It has to be a finished vessel. So once you decide, okay, now I'll use it for my for my tablecloth, fine. So now that's already now a finished vessel. So Rabbi Yehuda says, I don't care about that. As long as it's fitting to be used, so then that's enough. Rabbi Lazar says, no, it actually has to be right now a vessel which is susceptible to impurity. And until that happens, it's not, and therefore, if I get the blood of the chatas on it, I'm not going to require laundering. So that's why he says, just because it's been stripped does not make it susceptible to impurity. And Rabbi Yehuda says, it does, that's enough. Fine. And we'll see more about that. Now, Ela makom dam. So only the place that the blood goes on needs laundry. You don't launder the whole garment. You can just take, or the hide. Just the area where the blood is can be not an insect, right? What's the noise? Just you, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I thought it was oh, your fidget, got it. Okay, good. So Ella makom dam. Only the place of the blood is where you have to take you have to launder the part that has the blood stain, not the whole garment. It has to be something which is fitting for impurity and fitting to be laundered. We'll see. It's going to be coming to exclude things that you have to scrape to get the stuff off. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about only things that are fitting to be laundered. And we're getting very heavily involved in soft versus hard leathers. Yeah. Whether you're a garment or whether you're a sackcloth or whether you're hide, you need to be laundered. The hakibus makom kadosh. Now this is interesting. Where do you launder it? But not at the laundromat. You have to bring it into the courtyard. So you have to do it in a holy place. If the chatas goes into, the blood goes into a kli cheres, an earthenware vessel, so the only way to get rid of that is break it. That's also only in a holy area, the makom kadosh. Umerika v'shtifa, and the chatas blood goes into regular vessels. You have to cleanse them and purge them because we're worried about nosar. If you leave it over, then you're going to have the remnant of the offering absorbed in the pot, in the vessel, and then you violated the violation called nosar, leaving offerings overnight. Even the part that gets absorbed in a vessel, if that's left overnight, it's going to be a problem. You have to wash it or purge it out. Washing it out also has to be done in a makom kadosh. So they get fancy dishwashers, yeah. So this is, now it sounds like this is the stringency of a sin offering over the other holy offerings, and the Gemara is going to go back and forth about that. This is the only one. There's at least 3 or 4 other stringencies that a chatas has over the other ones. So why we choose this one? Okay.
Power wash.
That's right. Give the engineers what to do when Mashiach comes, So, okay. How do you know that that you have to that these clothings need to be blood has to be removed? How do I know to include the skin, the hide once it's been removed? Sounds like whatever gets blood on it has to be laundered. Okay, whatever. So then, or maybe you should come to include the skin, even as long as it's on the animal. No, beged has to be clothing. Ma beged haray lekabel tumah. Rabbi Yehuda, just like a clothing is something which is fit to be susceptible to tumah, so to anything which is fit to be susceptible to tumah requires laundering. That's Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Lazar says not fitting is not enough. Has to be actually right now susceptible to tumah. So Rabbi Lazar, I'm only including a clothing, a garment. How do I know to include a sackcloth also? The kol minei begadim or any other kind of clothing. Rashi explains that the regular word beged in the Torah is referring to wool and linen, to wool and flax. So samaru pishtim, wool and linen. Yeah, how do you have to include other garments also with other materials, sackcloth and other materials? Sounds like whatever blood goes on it, you have to wash. Whatever comes to include not only a beged, but whatever else. Well, if that's true, how far are you going to take this? Maybe according to Rabbi Gleizer, you should include even things that have been removed, but are not right now susceptible to impurity, because you haven't decided what you're going to use it for. And until you've decided, it's not going to be considered a finished vessel. No, it says beged, only something which is right now susceptible to impurity. That's what beged tells you. So to anything which is susceptible right now to purity susceptible to impurity will need laundering. So, what's the difference between Rabbi Gleizer and Rabbi Yehuda? Amar Abaye, mitalis pechusa mishalosh ikemenayim. So we have a garment that's 3 tvachim by 3 tvachim. It's a very small garment. It's 3 fistful by 3 fistful. How many inches? I don't know. Maybe 12 inches, 11 inches, 10 inches. Yeah, even smaller. Sorry, 3 finger thing, 3 fingers. So whatever it is, I don't know, 2.5, 6 inches total by 6 inches around that. So, so if it's under that, it no longer meets the minimal requirement of what's considered a garment. However, if you only need something which is fitting to be a garment, you could always take this and patch it onto another garment. It could be a patch for another garment, and then it will be considered fitting to Makabel Tumah. So if you're like Rabbi Yehuda, as long as it's fitting to accept Tumah, if you get blood on it, it'll be susceptible to Tumah. It'll be you'll need laundering. Mandam or Ra'ui, Hanami Ra'ui. If all you require, Rabbi Yehuda, is fitting, this is also fitting. Why? Because if you consider it to be part of a larger garment, so then that will be, when you do that, Makabel Tumah. Man davar Makabel Tumah, but Hamia Lavbas Kibule Tumahi. But if you hold like Rabbi Gleizer that you need something which is fit right now, it has to be right now susceptible to impurity. Right now, less than 3 by 3 finger breadth is not susceptible to impurity, and therefore, if it gets blood on it, you do not have to launder it. That's one difference. Rava Amar Beged, you have a piece of clothing, Shechishev Aleha Litsura Ikebeinayu, and you want to use this clothing as your it's a good word, as a not as a painting, as a what? Embroider. As an embroider. Yeah, so you want to use it for some weaving to embroider that. Okay, so right now it is fit to be susceptible to accept impurity. So mandam or ra'ui, hanami ra'ui. Right now, even though you want to use it to embroider, but right now it's still fitting because the as long as you decide that you don't want to embroider it, so then it's back to being a regular piece of clothing, and a regular piece of clothing is susceptible to impurity. But if you need it to be right now susceptible to receive impurity, that's not happening because right now you want to use it to be as embroidery, but you haven't done that yet. So right now it's not a piece of clothing anymore because you're not going to wear it, and it's not embroidered either. It's not a finished product. So therefore, right now it's not fitting to accept Tumah. Third practical difference is Rava Amar Utzpa Dechashiv Allah Lekatza. You have a it sounds like it's a piece of cloth that you wanna trim down and use as your as to sit on, or you want to use it as your placemat. So Manda Amar Ra'ui Hanami Ra'uya. You haven't cut it yet, but you want to cut it. You want to trim it down. So it's fitting to accept Tumah. As long as it's fitting to accept Tumah, to be susceptible to accept impurity, that's enough that if it gets blood on it, It's going to need laundering. Man Amar Davar Makabel Tuma, Halal Makabel Tuma, Ad Makatzala. According to the one who says you have to actually trim it down, until you trimmed it down, it's not a finished product. Not a finished product. It's not going to right now accept Tuma. Not going to accept Tuma right now. If blood gets on it, it's not going to need laundering. Yeah, the Hatanya. Now, usually the Hatanya with the hay is always an attack. It's usually an attack, but not every time. 99.9% of the times that it's not an attack, Rashi points out it's benichusa, means it's like soft. Meaning, you just an attack here, it's soft. It's just a proof, not an attack. Usually the dalet's always a proof and the hay is always an attack. But every so often, the hay is going to be a soft hay. Yeah, so it's not going to be an attack. The Hatanya, Rabbi Shimon ben Menashe Omer, you see here, it proves it. It's just proving the point that according to Rabbi Shimon ben Menashe, a piece of cloth that you want to trim down to use as your seat mat or your placemat, until you've done it, it's tahora. Tahora means it's not susceptible to accepting tuma. It's not susceptible to impurity until you trim it down, and that's like we said, according to Rabbi Yehuda, until you actually do it, it's not going to be susceptible to impurity. Okay, so two opinions. Do you need to be fitting to be susceptible to impurity, or you actually have to be susceptible to impurity? They both learn from the word beged. Beged is the teacher. That just like clothing is either fitting or actually right now can receive tuma. So to anything else that's like that is also would require laundering. Okay. So now you only have to launder the part that the blood goes on. Menani Mili, what's my source? The Tanur Rabbanan says in the Brisa, you would have thought that a little blood on part of the garment, the whole garment requires laundry, right? There's a husband and wife doing laundry, right? The wife throws the whole thing in. The husband, no, one second, I can do it. I'll just get this little spot out of it, and then he ruins the whole thing, right? So, sorry, no offense, Charles. Yeah, okay. So Talmud Lomar, how do I know that only that part needs laundering? Asher Yiza. So it says only this part. Lo Amarti L'cha Ela Makom Dam B'Levad. Asher Yiza has the implication of only that part where the blood's sprinkled on. That's the part that needs laundering, but not the whole entire garment. In other words, spot cleaning. Yeah. So Davar Shuroi L'Kabel Tuma, it has to be fitting to accept Tuma. Well, that line of the Mishnah seems very much like Rabbi Yehuda. Says the Gemara, Stama to Rabbi Yehuda. That Stam line, that anonymous line that just mentioned at the end of the Mishnah. By the way, things that are fitting to accept Tuma. Well, if it's fitting, the word Roi means the fitting. That's like Rabbi Yehuda, not like Rabbi Lazar. Okay. Now it also says it has to be fitting for laundering. What's not fitting for laundering? Lima'ute kli, to exclude a vessel, which is debar gredahu. It's something which requires scraping. Scraping off is a different method than laundering. So it sounds like things that involve scraping off don't require laundering; they require scraping. So now, do those things require no cleaning at all, or do they require scraping? That I don't know. But it's not talking about laundering. The Mishnah about laundering. These things, putting water on it is not going to help. Does that mean that you can just leave it and it's fine? Or does it mean you have to go and scrape it up? I don't know. Simply understood, it sounds like it's excluded. So it means you wouldn't have to take care of the blood at all. The blood is not something which requires removal. So, yeah. I guess you could really ask a general question. We're talking about laundering. So it's simply understood, anything requiring other methods of removal are not included under this halacha. But you could also hear, no, maybe they are. Maybe you have to remove them in their method. We're just talking about laundering specifically. Don't know. So, okay. Either way, whether you're a piece of clothing or whether you are a sackcloth or whether you are hide, you have to be laundered. Okay. So now, here's going to become a discussion which actually has a lot of relevance in Hilchos Shabbos. So the leather.
It's not leather.
I'm assuming it has well, that's going to be a debate, Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Lazar. If it's something which is right now, you've decided what you're using it for. So yeah, I mean, you're right. It could be If it's finished, so then according to Belazar, right now, if blood gets on it, it has to be laundered. If it's not finished yet, now finished could be you decide you're going to use it as it is. That's called finished too. But it could also mean that no, it needs to go through a whole process until it's finished. So that's going to be according to Rabbi Lazar, it has to be finished. So whatever finished is, if you have a use for it in its current state, that's finished. But if you need to process it, so it's not finished yet, according to Rabbi Yehuda, as long as it could be a vessel in the future. So even now, the way it is will be susceptible to impurity. Answer your question. But yeah, simply understood, we could be talking about a case where right now got shipped off the animal, and according to both of them, Rabbi Lazar will say, this is perfect for my living room. Fresh hide. Well, my wife will be thrilled for her anniversary gift. And according to Rabbi Yehuda, even if I'm going to use it later on as my, cover the seat of my car with it, I'm going to bring it to the shop to process it. But right now, it'll still need laundering. So now we're talking. The Mishnah mentions leather, like a leather hide. So now, and it talks about laundering. So it seems like and laundering means with water. Simply understood. It's a debate if other liquids are included in laundering. Let's just stick with water. So the simple understanding is lememra the or bar kibasu, that taking leather and laundering it with water is a way of laundering, of cleaning it. Now, v'raminhu, we're going to start going to Hilchos Shabbos back and forth. Haisa alav lashleshes. So it says in Shabbos that if you have some lashleshes, I think some kind of either spit or dirt. Filth. Okay. Lashleshes. Essentially spit. Yeah. Lashleshes. What do you do? Mekancha bismartut. You can go and you wipe it off with a rag. Fine. Haisa shel or. If it's of leather, though, no selehamayim achetichla. You can pour water on it until it goes away. Now you cannot do laundering on Shabbos. If you're allowed to pour water on leather until the filth goes away, then that's not considered laundering. Because if it was laundering, it's also on Shabbos. It's prohibited. So the fact leather shoes is a very big this, right? So it sounds like from here, just pouring water on leather is not considered kibus, not considered laundering. Because if it was, how does the Mishnah allow it on Shabbos? Amar Abaye, first answer, lo kasha, harabanan halachayrim. It depends. There's two opinions. Tanya, habeged v'asak mechapso, hakli v'haor megaro. The Brisa states that the first opinion says that a garment or a sackcloth, mechapso, that word mechapso means to launder, means with water. So that you use water. However, hakli v'haor, a vessel or leather, hide megaro, that you have to scrape off. So, okay, that's the first opinion. But achirim omrim, but others say habeged v'hasak v'haor mechapso. No, you can even clothing, sackcloth, and leather mechapso. Even that you could pour water on. V'hakli megaro, and a vessel you're gonna have to scrape off. So it sounds like there's two opinions. If on Shabbos you are allowed to pour water on leather, so our Mishnah holds that it is a form of laundering to get the blood out. So that's going to be the opinion of the Rabbanan. Of the Rabbanan. And the other Mishnah that says that you could pour water on leather and it's not laundering on Shabbos would be the opinion of Achirim. Yeah. One second. This Bryce is talking about blood, so hold on. I think I switched it. If it's talking about blood on your garments, so then the other way. The first opinion says that you take leather out, you can wash it out. That's the opinion of the Rabbanan. The Rabbanan are going to hold that leather could be laundered. Achirim will say it can't be laundered. So that Mishnah in Shabbos that allows leather to be washed does not consider that to be laundering. That's going to reflect the opinion of the Rabbanan. And our Mishnah would be the opinion of the Achirim. Yeah. Okay, fine. So that was a question with an answer. Good. Now, Kiman Oslo, who does the following go like? We're going to see this already, I think, 2 or 3 times the following story. Hadamar Rav Chia bar Ashi. Rav Chia bar Ashi says, Zimnin Sigim. There's many times. I was standing in front of Rav, and what happened? The shikshichin le masane, and he would wash his shoes in front of me. He would rinse off his shoes b'maya on Shabbos. So who does that go like? Kiman kiralana. It goes like the Rabbanan that hold that it's not considered laundering to pour water on shoes, on leather shoes. Amar Ravo Mika Laman Damar or Lavar Kibusu. Is there really an opinion that says that leather is a lav bar kibus, is not considered something fit for laundering? The way we're saying it now is there's two opinions. Is leather fit, is pouring water on leather a form of laundering or not? So right now we're saying there's two opinions. Rabbanan say it's not a form of laundering. Acherim, usually is Rabbi Meir, says it is a form of laundering, and that's two opinions. So says the Gemara, is that really true though? It says v'haksiv by tzaraas, by a clothing that gets tzaraas, what happens? Or any leather garment, so it has to be washed out. It has saras, has to be washed out. That word in the Torah, mechabes, is kibus, laundered. What do you see? You have to, that leather has to be laundered out. You got to pour water to get the saras out. So it sounds like it's a pasuk in the Torah. How are you going to argue with that? It sounds like everyone has to agree that it is a form of laundering, to which that rejects our previous notion. El Amarava, what's Rava going to say? Like this. Now we're going to make a difference between soft leather and hard leather. Until now, it was all leathers, two opinions. Now we're getting into different kinds of leather. Kra, the pasuk, and Masis in our Mishnah, which say leather is laundered, is birakim, is with soft leather. Soft leather, you put water, it's going to get it out. Ki pligi, where does that brisa, where the Rabbanan and the Acherim argue, that's bekash and hard leather. That's hard leather. Okay. The Homer of his. Okay. The bottom you're at the film. That's hard leather. Okay, good.
Yeah, I'm not talking about.
Yeah, please don't put it in water. Yeah. There's one thing we took away from today. Don't put your bottom of the film in the pool over vacation. Yeah. The Homer goes to
don't go snorkeling
in your tefillin. Yeah. So yeah. That's good. That's nice. Amar Rava. Yeah. So hold on. What are we saying? We're saying that soft leather is a form of laundering, which has, right, for us two big practical ramifications. If something is a form of laundering, then you have to get the blood out from a chatas. The blood has to be laundered out. At the same time, though, you cannot pour water on soft leather on Shabbos. However, if it's hard, then you don't need to get the blood out. Simply understood. And on Shabbos, it shouldn't be a problem. The Homer of Hiyatzim and Sigin have a communicated the Rab. I many times stood in front of Rab. And what did he do? He poured water on his shoes. On Shabbos, so that it must be he was going like Bikash, and it was hard leather. Ukirabanan. And he's going like the rabbis. That's no problem. Soft leather, everyone agrees. Apparently his shoes were hard leather, and he followed the opinion of the rabbis. Okay. But then Rava said, hold on, I'm going to reject myself. Hadam Rava Lav Milsahi. That's not really true. Why? The Amri Neku Nema Leila Kra Dechik Sivan Baraking Sivan. Is that really true? I'm going to limit the pasuk by Tzara'as to only soft leather. Milo Askinon Bekli Aksalagya Habayim Medina Sayama. We're not talking about certain vessels of hard leather that come from overseas. I mean, the Torah says all vessels. Sounds like even hard vessels. I mean, hard clothing, even hard leather. Not hard vessels. Hard leather. Even hard leather comes from overseas. It sounds like it's also talking about that. It doesn't limit it to soft leather. And what does it say? Become a rachman and you got to wash it out. So it sounds like Rav is saying about his own difference between soft and hard leather. I don't want to limit the Torah to only soft leather. It's referring to also hard leather, and it says you got to wash it out. So what are we going to say? Elam or Rava, maybe it's like this. Tzaras came in the megufe kaparcha, so mechalchel alei u'mishabile rak. Tzaras, once it goes into the garment, into the leather, it actually makes it softer. It makes it soft leather. So no matter what the garment is, the leather is, once it gets tzaras, it softens it. So really, even if it started as hard leather, but it becomes soft leather. Okay, so he's still sticking with his soft versus hard, and he'll answer the Tzarash problem. Amar Rava says, E kashli hakash. But if you want to know my problem, it's the following problem. Here's my following problem. Turn the page. Karim Biksasus Dirakin, who we know that you have pillows, sheets, sheets and blankets that are very soft. Dirakin, who, and yet what does it say? V'tanan, and the Mishnah says, the Mishnah in Shabbos says you can pour water on it until you can get it out. So how do you pour water on soft leather on Shabbos? That's called laundering. That's a primary violation. How do you do that? Oh, okay. So now Rava has to retract. Elam Rava called kibus the last like kiskus lo shmei kibus. So any laundering which does not have rubbing is not considered laundering. Pouring water is not laundering. Pouring water and rubbing is laundering. Okay. Third time we have the story. So now, I was standing in front of Rav many times. And what would he do? He would pour water on his shoes. Oh, he would only pour water. He would never rub. So now, who does he hold like? Either it's soft leather, so we're good to go. That's according to everybody. So, or ibikashin, or it's hard leather. If it's hard leather, it goes like the acherim that allow pouring water. Once again, he would pour water and not scrub and not rub. So if it's soft leather, you have to rub it. So the fact he didn't rub it goes like everybody. If it's hard leather you don't have to rub. Hard leather, just pouring water is a debate, Rabbanan and Acherim. So he would go like the Acherim. So says the Gemara though, if that's true, Beged Nami. So even regular clothing, you should just put it should be just regular clothing. You could also just put water on. And yet, what's the problem? It says in the Mishnah that when it comes to this rag, this kerchief, you can't just pour water on it. You have to rub. You have to just wipe it off with something else. You got to wipe it off with a handkerchief. You can't just pour water on your clothing. Well, why not? If laundering requires rubbing, scrubbing, so how come the Mishnah in Shabbos says that when you get dirt, you can wipe it off with a sack or a napkin or whatever, but you can't pour water on it. So here comes an important line. We said no. When it comes to clothing, beged shriyuso zehi kibuso. When it comes to clothing, a beged, article of clothing, pouring water, soaking it in water is its cleaning. So soft leather, you have to rub. Hard leather is a debate. Clothing, beged, a piece of clothing, just the pouring of water in itself is its laundering. Beged shriyuso zeu kibuso. They talk about how in the world do you wipe your hands on Shabbos in a paper towel. What are you doing? You're putting water into something. Well, it's just called cleaning off your hands, but pouring water into things, right? You're going to put something into with wax, yeah. But anytime you're going to pour water into something or put something into a spill of water, it's a question. How do you do that? How do you clean up a spill on Shabbos? It's all from this issue of soaking. Soaking of clothing is its laundering. Now, the Rava letame. Rava goes according to his reasoning. Rava said, throwing a sudar into water, throwing a handkerchief into water, you'd be liable to do. However, Zorak Zdera Pishna, interesting case, we'll see about this in a second. Flax seeds into water, you're also liable. It says more, hold on. That I understand. You're putting a handkerchief into water, you're cleaning the handkerchief. I got it. That makes sense. That's called laundering. But flax seeds into water, what'd you do? Elazar Pishna, my timer. What'd you do? Maybe you'll tell me that what he means is the water now is going to sprout into a beautiful flax. So, well, then why did you only mention flax? Isn't any seed in water going to grow? So it's not only flax, even even wheat and barley can also sprout and grow in the water. So why'd you choose flaxseed? No, hanach islahu riri. They have the flax seeds have riri, and they have like this gross stuff that comes out of it, mucus. Yeah. So really, what you're doing is you're just separating that out. But if that's true, then shlachim nami. By shlachim is another kind of how did you shlachim? Leather hides. Hides also. You should put into water and be allowed to do that. We said no. Hasam ka'avid lisha. So yeah, when you have flaxseed, the reason why it's not allowed on Shabbos is because they're going to join together. The flax are going to join together, and that violates a malacha called lush, called kneading. Kneading, you have to come together as one thing. Hides, leather don't come together; they don't stick together. So therefore, he chose flax seeds to tell you that you can't do it on Shabbos for another problem, not because of laundering, rather because of lush. It's going to come and be kneaded together, and therefore that's a problem of lisha. Darash Rava expounded the following: Mutter lechabes minol b'Shabbos. He says you're allowed to wash your shoes on Shabbos. Rav Papa the Rava Hamar Rav Chia Barashi. So Rav Papa said to Rava, fourth time we have this. Rav Chia, for those who are counting, Rav Chia Barashi zimnin tzigin hava kimina the Rav. Many times I'd be in front of Rav. What would he do? The shishchle masane b'mayim, and he would go and wash his shoes in water. Shechshachin aval kibus lo. Put water, yes. Rub not. So Hadr uki Rava amora laha b'darish. Rava then after put a amora. Here it means someone who like a microphone, but a person, a human microphone. He would put when they would give public lectures, they would have someone who would project their voice. He would put a projector, a person next to him, and he would expound as following. Aloud now. That has a negative connotation. Devar, but maybe we're using it for good purposes, yeah? So, Devar Mishem, maybe in my next career, yeah? Devar Mishem, Dilif Nechem Tos. And you should know what I expounded in front of you is a mistake. Tos Hem Biyadi, Viram, you should know the following. Kach Amru, Shikshuk Mutter, Kibus Aser. To pour water is allowed, but to launder, water, so that's going to be prohibited. Okay, maybe we'll do a practical class on what you can launder or not. So yeah, okay. Hakibos b'makom kadosh. Okay, so this is just the end of the Mishnah. Laundering has to be done in the courtyard, in a holy place. It can't be done in your laundry room. So how do I know? So the Tanur Rabbanan Techavos b'makom kadosh says you got to wash it in a holy place. Okay, shviras klicharis minayin. If you got chatos in your earthenware vessel, you got to break it in a holy place. How do I know? It says a klicharis earthenware vessel that you cooked in yishaver. You have to break it. Okay, what does that tell us though? How do you know it has to be in a holy place? Yeah, how do you know?
Breaking the earth must be done.
What?
Using the conjunctive for water.
Oh, ukli. Thank you. The vav. It connects the two together. The ukli. The next verse is and the kli cher. What's and the kli cher is going to bring it where in the holy place. Good. Thank you very much. So the kli cher is a bo yishaver. You got to break it where in a holy place. And furthermore, marika v'shtifa b'klina choshes. You have a copper vessels that you have to rinse and purge, or else it's going to be no sar. It's going to be leaving over the sacrificial meat, which is prohibited. How do I know that has to be done in a holy place as well? Because it says the in b'klina choshes boshel umorah v'shuta b'mayim. Same thing. The conjunction, the vav that attaches it teaches you that also has to be purged in a holy place. Good. Now we said that this is the stringency of the sin offering, as opposed to the other holy offerings. So it says more this and not other is Besulaka. What do you mean? We're gonna come up with at least 3 stringencies that a chatas has over the other ones, to which it begs the question, why the Mishnah specify this is the stringency? So first of all, you can't bring the blood inside. Okay. We're talking about chatas achitonios. We're talking about the outer chatas offerings. Shim nichnas dama lifnim psula. But if you bring that blood in, it's going to be invalid. Okay, Rabbi Akiva, the Amar Kol any blood that's brought in where it's not supposed to go is going to be invalid. Okay. Another stringency is shekin mechaber l'chayve krisos. That's another reason why it's more stringent. It atones for chayve krisos. Fine. We're talking about bechatas the shmiyas kol, a guy that falsely swore that he didn't know testimony and is found out to be a liar, has to bring also a chatas, and there it's not for kares. So that doesn't have that stringency. Okay, but she came to an arba matana. You got to go put 4 applications to Rabbi Shmuel. Them are called them into the arba matanos. Okay, but we're going like Rabbi Shmuel that says all the holy offerings, the kachik kadashim are going to need 4 applications. That's not unique by a chatas according to Rabbi Shmuel. Okay, it says al arba karanos, but the chatas goes on the protrusions on the altar, on them, not on the side, on them. Oh, now we're stuck. Vilatamen, according to that reasoning, once you get into nitty gritty like that, well, hold on, hayika karen and hayika etzba. You got to put it specifically. Has to go on the karen, on the corners, and it has to go hayika etzba with your finger and not from a vessel. And hayika chuda, you got to go directly on the right on the corner, not on the side, but on the edge. Yeah, not on the side of it. So these are the 3 stringencies that are unique about a chatas. Exactly on the corners and on the edge. So why do we choose laundering as opposed to the other ones? Ella chad mitrei plata chumra. Now what you have to say is you're right. We chose one of the 2 or 3 stringencies that a chatas has, and therefore to be talking about a regular chatas according to everybody, and we chose one of the 2 or 3 stringencies. Good.
No, there's a question